Calling all poets, please report to the stage. Turn this on. Welcome everybody to the kickoff of the Great Lakes Poetry Festival. We have a really great week planned out here at the library, and I just have to thank a few groups and people for helping make this possible. I have to thank the Friends of Peter White Public Library. If you're watching online right now, you can thank the Friends. They pay for all the live streaming equipment. You can thank the UP Poet Laureate Foundation, Northern Michigan University, Janine and Rick Rastel, the Carol Paul Memorial Trust Fund, and the Marquette Poet Circle, who all help us get this put together. So I'm just going to highlight the things that are coming up this week. Tonight we have the Women of Harvard Square Press. I've been so excited about this. It's very doesn't happen very often. We see 7 great poets on stage at the same time, and we have some of the best here. We have this tonight. Tomorrow we have our headline poet, Kimberly Blazer, who's going to be reading right here in the community room again at 6:30 p.m. She is a former Wisconsin Poet Laureate. She's authored 6 poetry collections. She's fantastic. So please come back for Kim Blazer tomorrow night. And then Wednesday we're doing something a little different. Wednesday night we're going to do dinner and a movie. That starts at 6 p.m., not 6:30, right here in the community room. We're going to be screening Jim Jarmusch's film Patterson. If you haven't seen it, you really are in for a treat, because it's just a wonderful, wonderful, wonderful film starring Adam Driver. And so bring your dinners. We'll have tables set up. Bring friends, and we'll just sit and eat and watch a really good movie. And that starts at 6 p.m. On Wednesday. On Thursday, we have a keynote poet. Jeff Cass is going to be here reading from his newest collection. Jeff was a Michigan notable book author. His book, Teacher Pizza Guy, was a notable book, and he had his new collection just came out recently. It's called True Believer, and those are poems that delve into the origin stories of Marvel superheroes. So that's, I'm really excited to hear Jeff read. He's a fantastic reader, and I've never seen anybody do this very often, but he memorizes his poems. And then, so that's astounding to me. Anyway. And then on Friday, we have a couple really special things going on. Friday, we have Cindy Hunter Morgan, another Michigan notable author, who's going to be doing a poetry workshop from 10 a.m. to 12 p.m. That does require registration. There's no fee for that, but we kind of like to know how many people are going to be showing up. But I'll just give you a clue. If you show up on that day and you're not registered, you'll probably still get in. So anyway, that's from 10 to 12 on Friday upstairs in the Shiras room. And then we take a little break. And then we come down here at 12:30. And Cindy also is one of the organizers of the Filmetry Film Festival downstate. And she just finished up that at the beginning of April. But Filmetry pairs poets and filmmakers who the filmmakers get a poem from famous poets, right? whatever. And they put their own vision on it. So that is going to start at 12:30 right here in the community room on Friday. And then Saturday we have two other great things. We have the Teen Poetry Contest Awards Ceremony that starts at 11 here on Saturday in the community room and goes from 11 to 12. And then we have about an hour break, and then we're going to have the winners of the International 3-Day Chapbook Contest reading from their winning chapbooks, and that starts at 1 p.m. right here in the community room. And then if you haven't had enough after that, show up for Rippling River at 5 p.m. on Sunday, and we're just going to read poetry, have pizza, drink beer, whatever you want to do, and just have a really good time and decompress after a really, really wonderful week. So anyway, that's what we have going this week, and I don't have to talk anymore. I'm not the master of ceremonies tonight, which is really, really wonderful. I'm going to turn things over to my really good friend and co-organizer, along with Lynn, of this year's Poetry Festival, Ronnie Ferguson, who is the owner and publisher for Harvard Square Press, one of the editors that works with poets as well there. And he is just a creative force, as most people in this room know. He's a musician, he's a poet, he's a writer, he's a filmmaker. I mean, he does everything. Just looking at everything that he does makes me tired, and I don't get tired very often. So anyway, please put your hands together for Ronnie Ferguson.
Thank you, Marty. I haven't blushed in a while, but I just blushed. Wow, it's a little surreal. This is the second year we've had a Harvard Square Press night. It was Marty's idea, and it's surreal because really Harvard Square Press was something that I started with my friend. The reason it's called Harvard Square Press is because he was actually living in Cambridge at the time, and we were trying to find a way to publish his book. And so that's really how it started. And I would have never guessed that this little thing that started in my bedroom, well, I guess it's still in my bedroom, but would have 26 books now. We have actually 26 books, and we've published 7 just this year so far, and some of them are going to be read from tonight. So really excited to be standing up here with all of these wonderful poets, each one super unique. Their books are fabulous. But there's two poets that would have loved to have joined the group. We would have had 9 poets tonight. And so I thought, as a way to kick things off, I wanted to read a short piece from each of the poets I'm talking about. So the first one, she read in here not so long ago for the release of this book, and she would love to be here, but she's overseas right now, Christine Sari. And so this is from her book called A Stitched Life. And this is a poem she wrote for her father. 10 days before he died, Ukraine, April 17th, 1944. What do you tell a 5-year-old about war? My father seized the occasion to teach me a physics lesson. When there is shooting, he writes, you must open your mouth so your eardrums won't burst. When there is shooting, he writes, the air pressure in our bunker blows out the candles and we sit in the dark. And he writes about death and destruction in a village. He does not say where. All the people have fled. Many dead horses lie on the ground. Only the chickens run around, and the soldiers are eating those. Amid such misery, my father finds beauty. Today is a sunny day, he writes. I heard a lark sing and saw 2 yellow butterflies. So that was by Christine Sari, who is here with us in spirit now. And This is by one of our dear friends, Helen of Joy. This book was made with love, with a lot of help from Gayla and from Marty. And it's just such a beautiful book. I started looking for a poem to read from this book, and I didn't get past the first one, so I'm going to read the first one in the book. And if you don't know who Virginia Woolf is a famous novelist among other writings, and she is particularly famous for being a pioneer of the stream of consciousness narrator. And if you ever saw the movie The Hours, Nicole Kidman played her in a story about her and won the Academy Award. And another thing I guess to know about Virginia Woolf is that she struggled with mental illness and she took her own life, and that gives you a little context for this. So this is called Virginia Woolf Spends a Day at the Beach. How unusual it is to sit here in sunshine, she thinks. No English drizzle, no gray wind blowing in from the sea, no war looming just offshore. The sun feels good against her skin. For today, all these years later, all these wars later, drawing out any... I messed up. For today, all these years later, all these wars later, she can feel her skin again. Feel the sun drawing out any remaining sadness, any remaining river silt that soaked its way into her bones. Today, she does not feel weighed down by a pocket full of stones, by the weight of a world where a woman's voice often flew out to sea with the gulls, unheard, or worse yet, became a gull's cry, a tern's shriek. No, today, all these years later, after that fateful day, that fateful step, not on water, but under water's current, this day in a new millennium, there is a change in the air, a song on the breeze that feels powerful, smells of beach roses and wild peas, sways like marsh grasses, flies high with the gulls. This is a day to dig bare feet in warm sand, to sit here a while, to join in the singing. All right. So, 7 poets we're going to hear from tonight. Well, I guess 9. We just heard from 2. All right. So we're going to hear from our first 4, have a brief intermission, and then we have 3 more. So this is our order, just so you poets know as well. Randi Clemens, and then we're going to hear from Beverly, Beth, and then Kathleen. Then we'll have an intermission. We'll hear from Lynn, Gayla, and Claudia will be our final one. So first, I want to just give like a briefest of introductions to each poet in their book, just so we have more time to hear their poetry. But first up is Randi Clemens and her book, Conjuring a Ghost and Other Ways to Ruin Your Teeth. And by the way, it's the oldest book up here. And it's like 2 years old, but it's literally the most ancient text on the stage. Couple things I want to say about this book. And about Randi. So first of all, Randi's been gracious enough. I've added her book to the classes I've been teaching, so my students get a chance to read this book. And Randi's come in every single time I've done it and just shared with the students and talked with them about writing, which has been great for them. Their response to the book has been super powerful. They write about the books after they read them, and it's fairly obvious, like just after reading for, a little bit, you see that having read this book, a lot of my students are really opened up writing about their own, the things that haunt them, and finding their own voice. So I can't think of a greater compliment from a book that it's inspiring other people to write their own stories. So Please help me welcome Randi Clemens.
I think that's good, right? Hello, everyone. Thank you, Ronnie, for the introduction, and thank you, Ronnie and Marty, for putting this all together and organizing the Great Lakes Poetry Festival, and thank you, everyone, for being here. And I know there are some people watching online, so thank you for watching as well. I'm really excited to be reading with all of these amazing female poets up here. This is just a really cool reading and event. And like Ronnie said, I'll be reading from my chapbook, Conjuring a Ghost and Other Ways to Ruin Your Teeth, which I wrote in October of 2021. So obviously it has some ghosts and some spooky things in it, but I also was in a time of loneliness, and I kind of felt like a ghost of myself at the time when I wrote this. So you'll see that in these poems, and I'm going to keep it really short, and I have 4 poems to read, and I think I'll just read them one after another. So, also, like Ronnie said, I've been visiting his class at NMU, and so I've been reading this chapbook out loud a lot lately, and I decided to choose some poems that I don't normally read out loud, especially to the college students, I guess. So it's a nice chance to read something different from this little book. This first one is called Sometimes the Swamp Calls to Me. The air is so thick I could practically drown. Skin slick and dripping, I am soaked to bone. My feet feel the familiar squish, mud prepared, waited just for me to sink into. I have craved the thick and green of the dark, hungered all my life for it, to inhale me like a breath and exhale like a wish. Only something I hoped would come true. I tie twigs into my hair, collect moss in my pockets for safekeeping. I tell the fireflies, it is okay, you don't have to burn unless you want to. I step into the black pool. Rocks stack high atop each other. A mosquito buzzes in my ear. Ways to ruin your teeth. I'd break every tooth on the gravel you fed me. Dissolve sugar on my tongue if it meant it'd be sweet. Take white knuckles to the mouth, knocked loose, and spit into your hand like a party trick. I've swallowed poison before, slid it down my throat like wet coins, choked on every word waiting behind my lips, clenched this jaw so tightly they turned into diamonds. I am a goddamn jewel, I'd say, if I could. Fall to the floor face first because I am drunk on everything bitter and bubbling. I'd crash this car, drive it off a bridge for you. I'd sip something acidic, all these cups of coffee, hot-tempered and still begging in my blood for another. Something worth holding on to. I opened the window to feel a breeze, hear the running of cars on the street below. I want to feel like I am part of something bigger even when I'm not. No noise coming from my window, no steam above the stove. I sit with the lights off and stare into the world as if it is my own and no one else's. I see a balloon float by, shiny, celebratory, and wish I had something to shout about. All I've ever wanted was to be tied to another, the second part of a whole. Hold me in your hand. Know what you will lose if you open your fist. I'd never be envious of the balloon. I just want to be its string. And this is the last one I'll read for you. It is called Sleepwalker. I slipped into the night like a gown, touched bare feet to lantern-lit pavement. I walked until the wind changed directions and spun me back towards home. I reached out, palms to the sky, waited for something like rain to kiss my tired skin. I swear I could hear the ocean, the ebbing and flowing, a lullaby meant just for me. I was restless for the water, and I searched for it, eyes closed and lips sealed. When I woke, I reached for every glass to find them all empty, lifted a shell to my ear, and heard nothing echo back. Thank you.
Thank you. Nice job, Randy. One thing I didn't mention, and I meant to before Randy started reading. So we have this contest that Marty and I worked together on called the International 3-Day Poetry Chapbook Contest. And it's been going for 3 years, and it's gets submissions from all over the world. Diane Seuss, a very famous poet, was one of our judges one year. It's really been taken off. And we've only had 2 people from the UP who have been winners in that contest. And Randy's one of them. And the other one is 2 seats down, Kathleen. So they're both award-winning poets. I mean, awesome. Next up, Beverly Matherne. She needs no introduction, but I will give her one. Beverly is our UP Poet Laureate. Beverly is a fantastic, not just a poet and teacher, but also singer and performer. Beverly has read poetry on multiple continents. And not only that, Beverly is just a great encouragement to many poets, young and old, new and seasoned, and so I'm so glad to have Beverly here. Her book is called Love Potions, Teas, Incantations, and it's one of the it is really the only bilingual book on the Harvard Square Press roster. So anyway, please give it up for Beverly Matherne.
Thanks, Ronnie. Well, I was boasting with Ronnie about something that really splendid that happened with this book, and he said, "Oh, you should tell everybody tonight." And so Ronnie twisted my arm. Here I go. So the book got a review, and I must say, a really good review, in Women in French Studies. And that happens to be this particular journal is a member of the Council of Editors of Learned Journals and Allied Organizations of the Modern Language Association of America. So that is pretty special. And it has a very impressive editorial board, which you can look at later if you wish. So I'm going to read a piece from here that I'm really not sure I've ever read in public before. And it's called The Floating Camp. And I'll do just a few lines of French at the end. It's after the painting, The Floating Camp by Kelly Scott Kelly. It's a bit of an abstract painting, and so it was very interesting to get a cohesive narrative just by looking at that painting. From her bedroom window, a little girl watched the bayou sparkle between cypress trees, but hazy afternoon made her dizzy, or I should say drowsy. With his scratched brown eye, her teddy, Mr. Bear, gazed at her from his pillowy lair, beckoning her to come to him. She nuzzled his smooth, worn snout and drew him to her chest, wondering how she would go through another birthday without her papa. Tomorrow, she would turn 18. She treasured her father's letters stamped with exotic Arabic characters and signed, "Your Papa, the Fox." The Fox, a nickname his war buddies gave him because of his cunning and good looks. Once, when she was little, her father said as he bathed her, "You are the duckling I rescued when I was a boy." I remember how I would fill the tub so he could swim. Though sweet and calm on the surface, his feet paddled like mad below water. From that day on, her father called her Ducky. One day, while a hurricane brewed in the Gulf of Mexico, Ducky heard glass shattering beneath her bedroom. She froze, then took the stairs slowly. She found her mother on the living room floor, sobbing in a pool of foul water, surrounded by wilted flowers and glass. Her mother rose as if in a trance and started for the bathroom at the end of the hall, leaving bloody footprints and tinted shards in her wake. Ducky followed her, careful to stay out of sight. Once a great green-eyed beauty, jet black hair cascading down her strong back, her mother had weakened. From the hall, Ducky drew back at the image of her, reflected in the mirror of the medicine cabinet, her lovely ebony tint now gray and drawn, her eyes hungry and cat-like. From the top shelf of the cabinet, behind a jar of pink face cream, Ducky's mother reached for a small pill bottle. When she opened it, its contents shook like a rattler's warning, and amber light filled the room. In that uncanny glow, her mother's malformed mouth, hunched up posture, and long claws scraping across the vanity shocked and frightened Ducky. One moment baking a birthday cake for her little girl, the camp filled with vanilla and spice, the next bestial. These were her mother's mood swings. Fearing what was coming, Ducky ran to her room and bolted the door. She threw herself onto the bed, covering her ears with pillows to muffle her mother's leonine snarling. She hummed one of her father's Cajun songs, heard his beloved accordion, and drifted into deep sleep, clutching Mr. Bear. For 3 days and 3 nights, the camp floated down the bayou. Stranded pets, wild-eyed and whimpering, sheltered in cypresses that rose from dark waters. Finally, brackish water reached the top of the stairs. Frantic, Ducky wailed, "Mama! Mama!" A pink curlew bird, drying her outstretched wings on a roof below, squawked back, "Ain't no mama. Ain't no mama." Slowly, the rocking stopped and the water receded. Despite the rancid odor that clawed her throat, Ducky ate the apples she had hidden under her bed and drank water from the toilet tank. Finally, she was able to take the slippery stairs. Below, she found piles of debris. Her mother nowhere. Ignoring heads of poisonous moccasins on the surface of now shallow water, Ducky made her way over the wreckage to the medicine cabinet. When she opened it, a green waterfall cascaded into the soiled sink. The face cream stood on the top shelf, and behind it, the little amber bottle. She lifted it and heard its familiar rattle. Once safely back in her room, she examined its contents while Mr. Bear watched. Ink on the waterlogged label had blurred and now resembled Chinese landscape paintings at the art museum in town. When she lifted the cap, golden light enveloped her. She thought of her mother, then brought the bottle to her lips. The room turned round and round. Everything sparkled. Ducky's father appeared, donning the sleek head of a red fox. Music from his accordion swelled. The pink curlew bird bobbed to the beat. On her tiny bed, a version of the theater at school appeared. Mr. Bear, 10 times his usual size, drew back its red velvet curtain. He smiled. Before Ducky and him, white clouds drifted in a blue sky. Ducky's toes became web feet. Down covered her arms, and soon feathers emerged, her entire body delicious. Her virgin wings undulated. She rose up and up. Swords of light shot through her. Tout son corps était délicieux. Ses ailes vierges ondulant, Ducky s'éleva de plus en plus haut. Des épées de lumière lui traversèrent le corps. Merci.
Thank you, Beverly. Next up is Beth Roberts, and she's going to share from her book on natural things. One thing you'll notice right away about Beth is she's just has a really distinct and poignant voice, and she said something the other day which I thought was so good and worth anybody here, and I think that's trying to do any creative work. She was a guest in one of my classes, and I believe it was one of the students asked her for any writing advice, and Beth talked a little bit about her own journey, like writing this book, and how when she works on a new book, she specifically tries to have there be a challenge in it, like trying to do something new. There's a part of Beth's process which is about discovery, which I think is so refreshing, and I think you're going to love her book. So please give a hand to Beth Roberts.
Thank you. Thanks for coming out on the soggy Monday. And a purgatorial spring, right? So I wrote this book on natural things when I moved back to the UP. It was June 2020. It was a very heavy time for a number of reasons. And I was at camp for a couple of weeks. But I'm not going to read that first section, which is all the poems that I wrote just then. I'm going to just start with the poems in the second section and just read for 10 minutes, basically. So this one is called Mama, which is the last thing that George Floyd said. Mama. Until the trial, we were thinking it was 8 minutes, 46 seconds. But the video knew, so now we know it was 9 minutes, 29 seconds. This lapse lasted nearly a year. That doesn't matter. The difference is 43 seconds, and it holds a question. Were they 43 seconds of the approximately 120 seconds Derek Chauvin kept George Floyd down to a still after he stopped talking? Or were they a third part of the approximately 120 seconds weighing on the air once he definitively stopped moving on his own? And how does that matter? Or did they belong to those earlier 6 minutes and 29 seconds during which he could still speak, move still? Or did those 43 seconds instead belong to the aging onlookers, their bleak rage? Or did they belong to the cop notwithstanding? Or did they belong to George Floyd all along? All along? Or did they belong to his mama, who felt him move? Here's another prose poem called The Body Victorious. Then suddenly in February, Wisconsin, the only state to allow hunting wolves with dogs, mandated a 3-day hunt with a quota of 119 wolves for state-licensed hunters and 81 for the Chippewa tribes of Wisconsin, who, because the gray wolf is sacred, accepted and let their 81 be. As hunters are not required by the DNR to report kills until 24 hours after the hunt, as they shot past their limit, the licensed hunters told each other to avoid posting on social media throughout the additional day, after which it was noted they had killed 216 wolves, 82% over the quota in Wisconsin's 6 wolf hunting zones. The hunters with packs of dogs, mostly the versatile Walker hounds, were allowed to free up to 6 dogs at a time to draw out the wolf and run it towards them, with no limit on the number of hunters. As dogs and wolves tire, the original hounds may be replaced with fresh ones. It is a strange sight to see a dog and wolf meet in the half-light of a February field broken at the edge of the woods. You think you want them to meet, but it ends. There is a limit to their recognition, or the terms change partway and the howling begins. The hounds have been trained, designed for this long moment. The parabola leading from the tree line up the ridge to those waiting meets the shot, rebounds, and returns with desire lingering. But did they briefly recognize each other, both marking distance and suspended in that strange world where they do not meet, but run together in a single rush up the full length of the rise, like whitefish turning and turning together below the ice, between submerged sun and shadow, rarely touching any other surface in that world, when sensing one briefly flashing victoriously into another direction. This is called AIM, and it's about taxidermy. How to do it, maybe. And why. Okay. Skin off the skin, then scrape the fat from the underside. Now hide. Rub the hide's underside with borax or cedar dust to speed the drying. You want to be able to lay it flat on its belly to stuff it with cotton. Sew it up if you can, the ibex or your hound, with your own hand. It could seem alive again in certain slanted light, though your hound and hand are now beyond recognition. See what you did? And now it haunts your den. You had only longed for the fullness of that moment when you accompanied each other in a deep parallel. Not this sparse ellipsis, redundant, yet rare. I forgot to keep track of how many. Maybe I'll do 2 more. As a condition for your joy. Maybe nature distresses you, or you find it distressing some of the time and necessary. Say that willow weeping moves you, so you look to it as a condition for your joy. Oh boy, for a moment there you did see it sway, turning away. The problem is the moments, isn't it? You seek or flee moments, and the conditions in which the moments can exist, such as summer, such as dementia, all to improve love. All right, here's one more. Eventually, up the beach, a distant yet naked man paces. I see his small black patch appear, disappear, appear again in turn. He is not mad, the world is. I too would be naked if not for this one piece. The giant firs downed around me had been pulled from their banks by the young climate disaster smashing waves over and over again against the shoreline until, eventually, they leaned toward and met the giant lake. Probably not on this beach are people who want their little girl to grow up to put her naked body repeatedly into the presence of men who will pay her for that. But there are systems in place to ensure it will happen anyway. It doesn't matter what the poem says. Fossilized traces of this world won't show the air dotted with songbirds, or the seconds I saw a black wolf elongating the daylit path in flight. Actually, those few seconds might show. Thank you.
Oh, that was so good. Thank you, Beth. Last person for our first half is Kathleen Heideman. Her book is called A Brief Report on the Human Animal. And two things I want to say about this book. I've talked with a lot of people who've read this book, and I've never had the same conversation twice. They all have a different reaction to it. It's, oh my gosh, this book is so funny. Wow, us humans are really bad, et cetera, all these different interpretations, which I think that's a sign of a pretty good piece of poetry, you know, if people are talking about it this way and that. I think that's pretty cool. One thing I wanted to say, too, is I just got an email from a student yesterday that had read Kathleen's book. And Kathleen had visited my classroom and had brought in some of her homemade books that she makes. It's part of her process is she makes books and like does art and poetry inside of like a handmade book. And I had never seen these before. I was blown away. And I thought my students were kind of like, it's okay, it's interesting, whatever. But this student in particular, she sent me an email yesterday, and she sent me 7 pictures in this email. And each of the pictures is a different page from her book that she does. And it has a painting, and it has a poem in it that she wrote in her own hand. So I think that's, man, what a compliment to Kathleen's work and even her process. So please help me welcome Kathleen Heideman.
Thank you very much, Ronnie. So I just wanted to share the brief report on the human animal was part of the chapbook competition that Harvard Square Press and the library have sponsored. And I didn't find out when I signed up for it that the topic would be the human animal. Somehow I didn't get that information right away. Probably would not have signed up for it if I thought it was about the human animal. I sort of had spent several years, I think, trying intentionally to not write about the human animal. And in addition to only having 3 days to write it, had to write about a subject that I just struggle with. So it was a really amazing challenge for me. And anyway, I highly recommend all writers sign up for the upcoming 3-day chapbook competition. You learn a lot about yourself. So this is the first poem in the book. The human animal consults Ancestry.com. The human animal consults Ancestry.com pure lineages, unless you count the ones abducted from their villages, carried off in irons in the holds of ships, or in situ Anishinaabe, Medewin, Chinese immigrants building railroad grades through mountain passes, wandering Peruvian silversmiths, wetback tinkers trailing wagon trains speaking Yiddish to Norwegian homesteaders, Hebrew scribes who spread their love of Indian curry while steering Viking ships to Newfoundland, and so forth. The human animal is an unreliable, delightful mishmash. Says one thing and means another. A risky concatenation of DNA and prejudicial systems with integrated mitochondria. At least you can hear them coming from a mile away, singing hymns in 7,100 languages, honking horns, ringing holy bells, begging for water, subwoofers thudding from golf carts, the chains of hungry logging trucks clang, banging as they race each other north in search of trees. Is it true what they say about the human animal? I get it, I do. Some days it seems the human animal is a disaster declaration waiting to happen, and maybe it's without redemption. Yet, in my experience, their handsome individual failings are alluring. Their cries and lamentations charm. You want to fix them, like a wonky wooden chair that needs a bit of glue and clamping. You could barely know a human animal but fall for them, say after 3 hours, or in a VFW hall in a sleet storm, or on the edge of Lake Superior. And obviously, they'll let you down later, or steal your first camera, start a fight during a romantic dinner and break your heart. Yes, all of this is in their nature. They are narrow fellows all. Only a few can be housebroken as they swing wildly between despair and joie de vivre. And of course, to partner with any human animal is taking shelter from a funnel cloud in a house trailer, in a windstorm ending with exodus and dispossession, wandering prairies of Pink Panther insulation in search of sodden photo albums or Barbie dolls like pneumatic nails blown pointy end first into telephone poles. And yet, without question, there are human animals inventing carbon capture technologies, rehearsing new symphonies, sifting atomic tidbits, serving trays of icy bubble tea and biscuits, and even at this moment, writing poetry. Sure, we're idling and spreading light pollution and landscape scale debris fields gyre the seas, yet I do believe it wants to, it must. The human animal may yet do better. I knew a human animal, and this is after Theodore Roethke. I knew a human animal once, so lovely in her bones. She wore bison hide as silken haute couture. She donned beaver fur hats, flashed condor feathers, peacock plumes, and rippled as she shimmied in a walrus stole, a flapper-length dress of sturgeon scales with a sash of weasel pelt, 4 paws still dangling. When she waltzed, oh how she surged. Whales breached themselves on beaches, and wrens fell silent as she sang, as warm plums dropping, and her teeth, so white, so razor muscle sharp, she'd tear gazelle-warm flesh from flanks while grinning. Fondly do I recall her wooing. Her petroglyph selfies shocked the cave sloths, making them blush and jitterbug deeper. Fearsome wet were her many moving parts, apex matriarch, Paleolithic Venus figurine pecked from soft limestone, a mammoth tusk polished until it shone. To brush her long hair formed literatures. Her oyster mushroom buttocks swayed at rest. Her breasts were snapping turtles gowned in moss. If she growled, I whimpered back instinctively and flung myself upon her lemming cliffs. This is kind of fun because normally I write really long verbose poems. Just this week, last week I learned that I do ultra speak, super long text. So these are all little tiny short ones. The human animal keeps forgetting. White and black spruce, indistinguishable. 2 greens. Can't tell one endangered warbler from the next, nor pillow basalt from granitic erratic, banded iron from nice. Even the youngest among them discerns Coke from Pepsi blindfolded, dominoes from jets. But ask sometime how salt may be gathered, or how a light bulb works, whether the sun rotates around the earth and do potatoes grow on trees. You'll see. It can't explain a compass, how freezers freeze, the recipe for cement or bread, how toilet bowls refill with water. Dunno, they say. Magic. Don't think about it and don't care. And couldn't tell you honestly who gives a rat's ass. One human animal will say it hires other human animals to worry about shit like that. We'll tell you, go ask Siri, go ask Google. Write down your question and stick it in the human animal suggestion box. Submit your question in writing in advance, and it may be answered in the public meeting if it is pertinent and if time permits. And I'll end with this one. So even if the human animal survives, and the epigraph is by Edward O. Wilson, Planet Earth biologist and ant researcher. Planet Earth will enter a new era of its history, cheerfully called by some the Anthropocene, a time for and all about our one species alone. I prefer to call it the Eremocene, the age of loneliness. So even if the human animal survives the Anthropocene, and here it is unclear what survival means, we will be lonely and largely alone, having seen the other species going extinct while knowing the how and the why of it, decades dithered away in game theory and indecision. No coffee beans, honey. We're left with Wordle and Quirtle and Scrabble, a box of Monopoly with the money missing, a century of yellowing crossword puzzles done in blue ballpoint. But what's a synonym for short-sighted? What's a 4-letter word for that friendly flightless bird we clubbed into extinction? What were those nut trees? Your grandmother folded them into cookies, the ones we cut down for a better view of the lake or cleared to plant more corn, where passenger pigeons flocked in such numbers some trees imploded under their weight. Sorry, we're out of milk and honey. Far out over the lake looms that brewing storm, the great loneliness. Hard to believe it will happen somewhere in Michigan. Last whitefish, last moose, last pollinator, last spruce. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Kathleen. Great job. We're going to take a brief intermission now. Please stretch your legs if you've never been to the Peter White Library. The restrooms are over by the stairs where you came downstairs. And the poets will be selling books in the back if anybody's interested in picking up a copy from anything you heard tonight. After the intermission, we'll hear from Lynn, Gayla, and Claudia. And also we have a table over here, which is a bunch of books that were donated by the library for anyone to take for free. So please get a book. Thank you.
Thanks, Ron.
Yeah, nice job, everybody. Yes, we are. Yeah, we are.
Yeah, you got to put this on Munchkin, but
That'll be easy.
yeah.
Cool.
I know. I think I can do it if we're not reading that many.
Yeah.
Thanks.
I'll keep it low. Let's go. So you'll have to go rise it up from here. Changing what she's going to read. Oh. Yeah. She's got way too much.
I thought I'd read "Oh, Captain, my Captain."
Oh, yeah?
Oh, I love that.
Yeah, he told me too. He said it was like one of the best ones he's ever heard. Marty, would you like to say anything to okay. You gotta restart the film?
No, I just left it go.
Oh, okay.
I figured people watching the video is going to need bathroom break eventually too, so. All right, we're going to get started again. Randy had to take off, but let's just give a round of applause for all the first round of readers here. Fantastic. And again, I just want to thank all the people that have worked to make this festival a reality this year. It was a lot of work this year, trying to get people to commit and everything. But with my two helpers, Lynn and Ronnie, we were able to pull things together, and very excited. Please take some free books over there. I collect these all year long, and they sit in my office. The only rule is that whatever you take, you cannot bring back. Okay? No. You can never bring them back. And tonight, just to let you know, we're having a box sale. I have boxes there. If you want to fill up a box, you get them all. So, it's such a deal. It really is. So, anyway, I'm so excited to hear these last three poets, and I'm going to turn things back over to Ronnie.
One of my favorite filmmakers, Paul Thomas Anderson, is director of Magnolia, which is one of my favorite films. He talked about the process of getting Tom Cruise to be in his film. And he said it was just like on his wish list. It was kind of like a dream, to get Tom Cruise. And then through a series of events, he was able to meet Tom Cruise and said, hey, would you be interested in being in my movie? And he said, oh, yeah, let me think about it, or whatever. So he wrote him this really, racy kind of role, and Tom Cruise ended up being in his movie. And I'm using this as a metaphor. Lynn Domina, who wrote this wonderful book called Inland Seas, and it was helped her to be chosen as Marquette Writer of the Year. And I just loved this book. And after I read the book, I just thought, I would love to publish something by Lynn sometime if I ever got the chance. And so I just happened to set up I think it was a meeting at a coffee shop. I just like, hey, Lynn, want to get coffee sometime? I don't think I told her necessarily what it was about. And I said, hey, I would, do you got anything you haven't published that maybe you've been wanting to publish? And so she said, well, yeah, I just have Just the Thing. And she talked a lot about the chapbook forum and told me this idea she had for this book, which was mostly, I think, pretty much drafted at that point. And I thought, wow, this sounds wonderful. I'll let her tell you more about the book. It's called Killing Him. And one thing I will say about the book, which is really interesting, is it's based on an apocryphal story or a biblical story. And some of my students who have read it said, oh, yeah, I remember this story from growing up Catholic. But I didn't know all the story surrounding the story. So what I think is really interesting, what Lynn did, is take this story, which is seemingly really familiar, biblical stories. You've maybe heard it before, but what Lynn brought to it is a prophetic type of imagination, where she took the story and she said, oh, what was maybe this character thinking in this situation? Where was this going? So please help me welcome Lynn Domina.
Thank you, Ron. It's been really exciting to think about this reading, because you don't often get a chance to read with so many poets who are also people for whom you have such affection. So it's been really pleasurable. Now, this book, it's brand new. It's the first time I'm reading from it. I will be doing a fuller launch reading in about 3 weeks, in which I will explain the whole history of how this came to be, because it's filled with all these coincidences. But to summarize, the poems are based on this biblical story in the book of Judith. Now, Ronnie said the apocryphal story, but his Catholic students knew it. And the reason for that is, if you look at a Protestant Bible, it's in the Apocrypha. If you read a Catholic Bible, it's in the Bible, right? And so there's that kind of complication. But basically, the only facts you need to know are Judith is the hero, and her city is under siege, and the opposing general is Holofernes. And, he's pretty arrogant, as generals can be, and he certainly does not take her seriously, this woman, and you should note that, therefore, she is able to decapitate him with his own sword. So that's where the title comes from. So if you're someone who doesn't take women seriously, give that some thought. Okay, so the first poem I'll read is called Filming Judith. First, Sand and sand and sand, white sky filling 2/3 of the screen. The air trembles with heat for 40 seconds, a minute, at least 15 seconds longer than the audience can tolerate. 2 black specks like dust motes rise on the horizon. They increase. 2 shadows walking toward the camera, walking, then 2 women walking. No sound except the audience fidgeting, a cough, a sniffle. Finally, the wide angle fades and 2 faces fill the screen. Sweat trickling through dust, smudging their necks. Everyone's skin itches, but even so the audience will see beauty, and some will wonder how such dirty, exhausted women could look so striking. The women look down where they are going. After the audience understands that they won't see yet the women's eyes, won't be enveloped in their dark depth, the camera shifts to a room shadowed by 4 or 5 adults, a few children. 1 sliver of light. Then a door creaks, the first sound. The women enter. The one who's been carrying the bag, setting it with a thunk on the bare table. A man's face emerges from a corner, his flesh worn tight, his beard scrawny and black, his mouth not quite open. With him, the audience thinks flour, chickpeas, figs, maybe even a crisp cucumber. The other woman pulls out the head. Everyone looks up now, and now you can begin your story. So the one woman is, of course, Judith, and the other woman is her maid, who doesn't have what we would think of as a speaking role in the story, but is essential to it. And the other thing I want to mention is that the book is also inspired by these mosaics, one of which is on the cover, by this Canadian artist named Lillian Broca. And so what I'm doing in this series of poems is responding to the story and also responding to the art about the story, and then also thinking about the viewers of the art and the audience, the readers. So the next poem I'm going to read is the title poem. It's in the form of a ghazal, which is a Persian form, and there are lots of requirements for this form, but the main one is a certain amount of repetition, and you'll hear it immediately. He offered figs and honey. She accepted, sweetly killing him. They flirted in his tent, no attendants to avert her from discreetly killing him. He relied on might, dismissed wit, trusted wine to win her consent. She nodded, smiled, obediently killing him. He preferred fine silver, heavy goblets, roasted meat, dripping blood. She folded her linen napkin, neatly killing him. She smiled at his jokes, though slightly, gazed into his glazed eyes, fingered his lips, smiled again before genially killing him. With wine and more wine, he grew boisterous, bold, and vulgar, his words slurred and profane. She raised his sword, obscenely killing him. He was a general, she a mere widow. He thought her shy, fearful, submissive. She thought herself sly, womanly, meekly killing him. Who dominates now, the drunken warrior or the threatened woman? Does violence stain every victor, even one famous for cleanly killing him. The next one is in the consciousness of Holofernes. He's sleeping, of course, he's passed out, having gotten himself drunk, when Judith takes advantage of that moment. And the title is, On the Night of His Death, Holofernes Swoops and Soars. He'd been dreaming of birds, magpies, jays, a woodpecker's wings stroking the base of his skull. He dreamed black and red feathers sprouted from his shoulders, draping the ground like a victor's cape. Someone braided iridescent feathers through his hair, pulling each strand tight. A man's voice urged him to wake, while a woman soothed his startled desire for flight. She opened her palm, revealed one misshapen egg hatching, the dark fledgling hurling itself from her hand. He felt talons circling his neck and saw a bright flash, something he would never identify. It's kind of fun. I've written a lot of poems that respond to stories in the Bible. And sometimes it's fun because those stories are so cryptic and they're so minimal, right? So it's fun to kind of flesh them out. But it's also fun to look at how you can so side with the underdog, right? And I probably have to repent of this on my deathbed, but it's fun then to imagine what it would be like getting that kind of revenge that Judith gets. I went to a Quaker seminary, so I'm supposed to be nonviolent. And mostly I am, right? But, one has one's imagination. So at any rate, the last poem I'm going to read is thinking about the artist, in this case Lillian Broca, but in general, visual artists. And I have no talent in visual art, so it always kind of creates awe in me. So this poem is called The Artist at Rest. If she were a she-bear, she'd dream all winter of northern lights. Closing her eyes now, she watches colors mist inside her shut lids. Her desire to lie still forever, is it surrender or sorrow? Formed of glass, she'd remain transparent, a prism oscillating in sunlight. If her shattered body converged as constellation, who would notice the hawk? Who the hare? But if she were composed of light, would it feel more fine to distill herself into a single ray, or to be reflected blindingly from rippling water, to be seen, or to be the means of sight? If she concealed herself in the art, where would she find her vanishing point? Thank you.
Thank you, Lynn. All right. Next up is Gayla Malherbe, and her book is brand new as well. It's called Growth Rings, and this is a really interesting. It's a full-length collection, and it's there's a metaphor running through the whole book. It's broken into sections, all from different parts of a tree. Thereabouts. I'm pretty close. And there's a lot of material in this book. In fact, it's subtitled A Memoir and Poems. And so it deals with a lot of real stuff, like stuff that is vulnerable to share and also very, very personable. And one of the great compliments about this book that I've heard from people reading it, and I feel it too, is that it's very relatable. You know, you read this book and it may not be your life that you're reading, but you can relate to it. And so it's just a fantastic collection. I was so happy to work on this book with Gayla, and I'm so glad she's here to share it. Can you please give Gayla Miller?
Thank you. Yeah, I'm pretty happy with how it came together, and I knew it had to be a book. What I wanted it to be is a reflection of me being what I would consider a small town girl, because I feel like when you start out, you know, that's a big part of who you become. But now that I've become for all these years, it's like it's nice to reflect on what you've become as well. And when the tree metaphor came together, I was pretty excited, and I don't have time to talk about it, but I think it's very interesting to consider a life as parts of a tree or the forest or any part of nature, really. So I actually have little sections, and since the title of the book is Growth Rings, I just put the simple definition of growth rings at the beginning, which is concentric layers of wood developed during each annual period of growth, which is pretty simple. But I think, you know, we are all of those rings, each of us. And Albert Einstein said, "Look deep into nature, and then you will understand everything better." And I wouldn't really understand anything if it weren't for nature. So I'll just read as much as I can, and I am going to be interrupted by that woman upstairs telling us that the library is about to close. So that'll happen. But Sandpoint, age 12. We let whistling sand spill warm between our fingers as we sprawled among beach grass, gazed out at the choppy channel, aquamarine sandbar, painted cliffs of Grand Island. Bodies parched, we tiptoed in. Icy water gripped ankles, knees, goose-bumped thighs. Our waists quivered, tightened as we inched closer to the drop-off, felt our feet slipping. Groundless, we squealed, fell into the arms of Superior. Above deep-water darkness, we treaded, spun, squinted into August sun, reclined, swished halo hair side to side. Small-town girls with matching bikes, blue and white 10-speeds from Kmart. We did not have a community pool or swim lessons, but believed we could stay afloat forever. Our buoyancy was more than skill or strength. As the sun dried the tops of our summer-bleached hair, we bobbed, best friends, giddy and carefree, driftwood beneath a wide, cloudless sky. And if you read the whole book, there'll be things that you see a couple times. And I did mention my Uncle Rick twice in the poems that were as far back as I can remember. But this is a poem that I reflected back to when I was maybe 13 and he had passed away of cancer. Uncle Rick, this afternoon is not meant for odd drills on the football field, nor an impromptu trip to the weight room. There will be no double dog dares, no heaving the heaviest plates overhead in the name of emerald pride. The whistle will not dangle around your neck, tick with the rhythm of practice plays, will not be drawn in an instant to your lips to call in your team. Tonight, you will not sit last at the table, a stack of history beside you, best shots at when and where and who, printed in number 2 lead as fourth-hour light-drenched desktops and fidgeting feet scraped sand across tile. Tonight, you will not play chancellor with your red pen, scribble comments and margins, rub temple and chin, finish the stack. You will not rise all of your 6 feet 4, khakis and belt, let the collie out to pee. You will not draw the drapes, call goodnight to your daughters, your only son, set your glasses next to the lamp. You will not kiss your wife of 21 years. No, today you rest, your team on bended knee. Your daughter wears your watch. It hangs too heavy on her wrist. The bed is empty in the living room. Grief sits in your chair. No one knows where you have gone, really. You and that smile in your eyes, those jokes on your lips, that mind so full of ideas. Let's see this one. I've read this before, but I think it's really, it always bubbles up in the midst of family and letting your kids go and all the change that you have to weather. Shadow Man. You lurk in the shade of the garden, looks their girth and height, their generous leaves. Remind me of how they began, remind me of how they will end. You know the symptoms of my heart, have not missed the cloud in my expression. As I tend again and again to the blossoms, I snip and prop and love. Oh, how I love them. But you down there with your wise, cruel smile, you whisper, it's no use, you cannot keep them. You are a fool for even caring. You're right, time will take it all. I cannot keep a thing. Why then do I continue? Why do I wake each morning to love? Why do I hold my daughter to my chest, allow her tears to soak right through me? These children are not mine to keep. And I say to you, little shadow man, you do not know my privilege. You do not know the gifts of impermanence, how the flowering and parting never end, how after every goodbye there is only a pause before that undeniable sprout breaks through the earth, ready to begin again. I am not afraid. If I were to close my eyes now, I might miss the best part. That's part of the reason I wrote this book, because Troy Graham bugged me to write a book for that poem. So this is, there's a section for my family, a section for everything. This is for my husband. Ode to Us. You are the bed neatly made, the perfect crease under pillows, canisters straightened in rows. You are the clean swept floor, the shirt tucked in, the round chocolate cake on the counter. And I know I don't tell you enough that I love you the way that you are, even as I pull my own shirt loose, walk across that floor with bare sandy feet, even as I take my own bowl from the cupboard, forget that you set my place at the table. I don't mean to be so scattered. I am, after all, the orange peels on the counter. Smell them, aren't they sweet? Like your chocolate cake I love so much. You are the freshly baked bread. I am the crumbs that fall on your clean swept floor and the sand between the sheets of that neatly made bed. I have some reflective kind of existential poems too. This is called The Last Wolf. Silent his footfalls, wide his paws, pads weathered like leather, scarred and smooth as his stealthy passage through bracken and bush. Wise his nose, moist and supple, sight without sight, the way he studies his world. Wary his eyes, keen his ears, to the clap of gunshots, the roar of human voice, thick and crazed with ignorance. ombre, his coat, the color of grass, land, seasons, sunsets, last light, a watercolor story, all its beautiful, difficult truths. Long his tail, neither hidden nor high, soft and open, at ease, moving with him as shadow, as memory, as mate. Okay. This one is, I like this poem. Once when I was canoeing, we saw a frog with no front arms, and it was so terrifying. Plastic canoe. And there's a little quote from Mary Oliver that says, "Equally, it may offer the heart a dish full of terror. Equally, the world may offer the heart a dish full of terror." When we dwell in wild places, back alleys of bog, dark corners of hemlock, this world can be terrifying. Our fig leaves long cast off for polyester and rayon, our feet wrapped in colorful mesh and cush. We peer down into this river from our plastic canoe, watch this frog pump his meaty thighs, move slowly against the current, smooth speckle of thorax where front legs should be. It is a pitiful scene, this awkward swimmer striving to exhaustion. We stare down, wide-eyed, without realizing that we too have lost our arms, are pumping, pumping, pumping against the current of our own extinction. To stick with the 10 minutes, I will read one more. I do write some poetry about being a physical therapist and what it's like to experience the lives of others. This one's called The Dance. I sit beside Mary on her floral davenport, next to the piano topped with frames. Generations of faces peer at us, a younger Mary and her husband Bill. "How many children do you have?" she asks. "3," I reply, as my fingers find her pulse. Mary tells me that she used to dance, that she sang in the choir into her 80s, that Bill put in the patterned kitchen floor, black and white, 16 pieces per square, that the two of them raised 8 children here. "How many children do you have?" she asks, as she leans to see the trees through the window. "Not a bit of wind today, not a bit." We stand at the counter side by side. She follows along with each exercise until she notices the aspen. "The trees are sure still today, not a bit of wind, not one bit." I remind her that we are rising up on toes, but Mary can no longer take her eyes off those still trees. I turn her around to face me. She takes my hands, tells me they are warm. We sidestep across black and white, 16 pieces per square, and I wonder if they danced here late at night, if Bill took her hands just like this as they swayed like aspen in the breeze. There's your 10 minutes.
All right. We've reached our final reader of the night. All of these wonderful poets who have read tonight all have books published on Harvard Square Press. This last book is a book that's forthcoming from Harvard Square Press, so it's not even in the world yet. So these are transmissions from the future we'll be hearing tonight from Claudia Drosen, and her book is going to be called Brooklyn Accent, unless she's changed the title. Nope, still the same title. Okay, there's still time, yeah. Just one brief thing I want to mention about Claudia. I met Claudia when we were scheduled to do a poetry reading together, and that was the first time I met her, and it was at Superior Culture. And I had some friends and students that came to that reading, and I remember, I don't know if I told you this, but I remember specifically after Claudia read, some of them came up to me and were like, that was the funniest poetry I've ever heard. I didn't realize poetry could be fun. And it can be, because Claudia's here. Let's give Claudia a hand.
I've never been so quiet in my whole life. All right, thank you for allowing the elderly to take the lectern here. Yeah, this book is about Brooklyn, but it's also about the fact that I've been in the UP for 38 years, something like that. But you tell me to read for just a few minutes, I mean, you know, I can't really give you the whole gist, but I will start off with one called Mall Moon. Eva, my friend from forever ago, is talking up a storm in the Gateway Center parking lot about how she saved $13 on this yellow dress. She seemed so proud of her skills, I let her chatter on. Heading home from this too-long shopping trip, feet swollen, we heave our spoils into the back seat of her just-washed Mini Cooper and settle in with an ah. She is still yakking about belts and earrings as we merge onto the highway and witness this moon hung above everything, crimson as pictures of Mars I'd seen in the Britannica as a child. Oh, the moon looks kind of pretty tonight, Eva says, but the round giant makes me gasp. Looks so close, so real, so fake. One night on vacation a few years back, I saw a moon looming enormous and eerie like that, but my husband blamed it on debris in the atmosphere. Ned was not very romantic. He said it looked like a piece of pepperoni stuck up there. To me, it was celestial Hollywood. Eva and I had searched the mall for a bit of excitement, trying on lacy vermilion nightgowns, sampling perfumes like Enchantress and Diamond Fantasy. And all the time, the real intoxicating jewel was right above our heads. A hard candy begged to be bitten, flanked by the lighted windows of high-rise apartments. I know, the moon is real. People much braver than me or Eva have actually floated around up there, taken a token of rock. But down here, with just eyes, without the special suits, it seems to be scotch taped to the sky, following us around, out of our hands' grasp, out of our minds' grasp, just put there to beam us up and out of the world of yellow dresses and shopping malls. Here's a Brooklyn one. I was a little baby, so that was like 3 years ago. It's called The Nostril People. It's July 1956. Air like bathwater. I'm in a steel muscle car stroller rolling down the Coney Island boardwalk. I'm the only one strolling with blinding speed. New Yorkers don't stroll. Family limbs lunge, pushing me through traffic. When I lean my head against the back of my chariot, I spy a sextet of nostrils over fast-moving lips. We weave around a loud crowd. Oops, sorry, excuse me. Rolling, rolling. Swirls of giant all-day suckers, sweet cotton candy, blue, pink, purple, nickels, dimes, clinking, rolling, rolling. Bleach white clouds mingle with Ferris wheel squeals. Down here, the Nostril gang bumps me past other lowly stroller dwellers, bringing sand-filled, floppy-sandaled, crimson-toenailed Brooklynites back and forth, close and far. I whine. I want a sucker. Ooh, that looks like a high ride. Can we go in the water now? But the nasal drivers ignore me as they push, swerve. Excuse me, sorry, coming through. We are trying to find Coney Island fun. We are racing. I thought we were here. Wasn't that it? Not stopping. It's somewhere. Not sure where, but I bet we'll get there first. All right, if you want me to quit, just let me know, because you've been sitting there a long time, because I will go on. This is called After the Sermon. So at 10 minutes past, in the chilly church basement on potluck Sunday, great meatloaf, grayer potatoes, 3-bean salad, Pastor Whitman's unattached family friend and bookkeeper, taller than is comfortable for a woman, Marjorie, who has been conspicuously absent from services since who knows when, storms into the smooth-floored Methodist mess hall, fiddles uneasily with her tortoiseshell head comb, the one etched with a red-throated loon that her niece really likes, throws herself to her knees, tries to hold back full-bodied sobs. Just about all munching and mumbled pleasantries screech to a halt as Marjorie admits to the congregated that hell is where she belongs, for she has been loving Pastor Whitman in a man-inside-woman sort of way for the last 18 months. And even as she confesses, she daydreams his jittery hands fumbling inside her blouse and places south. Marjorie rubs her mascara-ringed eyes, brings news that she is carrying his fetal parishioner, that she wants to come clean. Most park their forks on the long tables and gasp. Pastor W. almost chokes on his snickerdoodle as his eyes avoid his wife's face, white as a Minnesota winter by now. But Mrs. Morgan, who works at Joann Fabrics, and her Betty Haynes friend from Thursday night knitting circle continue to sip their coffee. These two obedient pew fillers of the flock have known since they laid narrow-slitted eyes on Marjorie 2 years ago that she was a homewrecker, that's with a capital H. That their innocent pastor, not capable of instigating wrongdoing, would fall prey to her wiles. Oh, yes. But they still brim with faith that their Lord is benevolent, fair, will open up his forgiving heart to this duet of sinners, and somehow understand that humans work in mysterious ways. Okay, let's see what else. What a soft modal chant of a mourning dove fills dead air. At first phrase, his oral lament strictly calibrates to new sun-exited moon tronomes. But in the blink of an avian eye, he relaxes his coo. Using musical license as his guide, he makes a retard. At the end of each repetition, the same each time, breaking your heart each time. All right. This is called Busted, ? I never smacked an elderly nun in the mouth with a cast iron skillet, not to mention the back of an angry hand. I never picked a lady slipper deep in the woods in an effort to evade the flower police. I never even wrote down an answer gleaned by peeking at my neighbor's paper. Well, once in social studies, in 1966. Oh, and there was that severely overdue library book that I reshelved in my own bookcase. But if it were possible to get busted for thoughts? Looking out my bay window at the snow piling up on my Subaru, my mind has dissolved power-wielding leaders of third world countries with nothing but a Dollar General potato gun. Here 1 minute and poof, eradicated the next, by way of those shimmery curtains used to teleport Star Trek characters. Peace on earth without the mess of rotting flesh. I had this dream that I stole another woman's big, delicious man. While serving tater tots to my kids, he showed up, leaned against the stainless steel fridge, and through whispery lips said he'd do just about anything for my affections. I never laid a hand on him, honest. Not hers anymore. What she ate that night doesn't really interest me. Well, my crazy brain willed my 350-pound mustachioed sixth-grade teacher to fall to her death off the Tappan Zee Bridge. Mrs. Fishman used to bring a roll and butter to class, eat it while she was taking attendance, crumbs flying all over the desk. But this time, Her car hit the steel girder, and she was ejected into the Hudson River below, the roll rolling in the air like a starchy little cloud. Poor woman. After a ruthlessly efficient judo throw to the cold high school floor, I bludgeoned, smirking, stuck-up Carly Hendrickson with a tire iron, then stabbed her to death with the gold-filled circle pin Pete Benson gave her to wear on her cardigan. Her screams seemed as real can get. I did it during a commercial for Special K. Murder is not just for breakfast anymore. One more? Oh boy. One more. Okay. What the night can do. Meanwhile, at an hour in St. Cloud, so middle of the nightish that the donut guys are still counting sheep, a very odd thing occurs at a widow's tidy bungalow. The man on the far left in the amateurish sofa-sized oil painting, hanging a little low over the stale living room for 41 years, extends his hand off the canvas to the thin-skinned old woman in question as she relaxes in her overstuffed wing chair with matching ottoman. As our widow leafs through the large print edition of House Beautiful, she hears the painting man's voice call, a bit hoarsely, "Eunice, Eunice, please stop reading the article about how to knit a delightful tea cozy and close the magazine. None of your trite little truths of Wednesday afternoon mean much right now. Join me up here, dear. No, up here on the wall. If it's late where you are now, don't say you haven't been warned." Thank you.
Let's give a big hand for every single poet that was here tonight. You have about 10 minutes to buy books before they start locking the doors outside. So, please go back, and if you enjoyed these books, buy one of them. Support your local poets, because, we like to eat too. So please, please, please. And come back for the rest of the events this week. It's going to be a really great week. Thank you so much.
Thank you.